Okay, I'm going to try this again because people don't want to get it. We have somebody in the community who is a friend. He was a husband and a father, and he just passed away. And people just want to argue for the sake of arguing instead of showing empathy, like this person here. But I'm going to respond to it anyway. I'm just going to respond to it. Nobody is trying to downplay the seriousness of haunted objects or the care that need to be taken for haunted objects. Um, but look, police work is dangerous work. Okay. Being in the military is dangerous work. Road construction is dangerous work. My mom's cousin worked in road construction, and somebody came speeding through the area and he got hit by a car, and thank God he survived. Thank God he survived. But road construction is dangerous work. Okay. But whenever somebody passes away in, the military or in, police work or road construction, or somebody who works as a firefighter from diabetes or cancer or heart disease, or, they get into a car accident, off duty, or, some tragedy befalls them that has nothing related to their job. Nobody says, well, it was because he was a cop or because he was a firefighter or because he worked in road construction. Nobody says those kind of things. People send their thoughts, their prayers to the family, to the friends. They show empathy, they show consideration, they show concern, they show, their heart, they show, condolences. They're kind. But whenever it comes to the paranormal, people start to sensationalize it, and they forget that these people are human beings. And it's just, you get things like this. And that's what's disheartening. Now, Dan worked with the New England Society of Psychic Research for over a decade. He was not the only one who handled Annabelle. He wasn't even really the main one who handled Annabelle. After Ed and Lorraine Warren, the New England Society of Psychic Research and the Warren Occult Museum transferred to their daughter and son-in-law. So mainly it's Tony Spera. Okay, Tony Spera is in charge of the Warren Occult Museum, Annabelle, and all of the other things inside of the museum. And let me remind you as well, for those who maybe forgot, Ed and Lorraine Warren were the ones who were mainly involved with Annabelle. They investigated the case. They took control of Annabelle. They did exorcisms on Annabelle. They had priests come in for exorcisms on Annabelle. They had Annabelle in their home. They handled Annabelle. Lorraine Warren went to many of these evenings with Annabelle conventions in her later life. She lived to be in her 90s. Again, as I mentioned, there are priests who have gone head to head with demons in very serious, dangerous exorcisms, who are alive today, retirement age, still doing the work. Father Gabriel Almorth was in his 90s when he passed away. Tragedies happen. That doesn't mean that haunted objects or haunted things like Annabelle are not real or not dangerous, but it doesn't mean that they are the cause of these tragedies that happen to somebody like Dan. Sometimes people pass away. And sometimes, even if they are the cause, let's say that even if you want, let's say that you get your way and Annabelle was the cause, at least give the family empathy to grieve instead of throwing it all over the internet. How about that? But again, sometimes people do dangerous work, and the work has nothing to do with a tragedy or their health or their passing. People have genetic issues, like genetic heart issues. Cancer can be genetic. Diabetes can be genetic. Sometimes people get into car accidents, or there are fires or tornadoes, earthquakes that have nothing to do with their work. Tragedies can happen. It doesn't negate the work or what goes on in the work, but it doesn't necessarily relate to one another. Let the family grieve. Let the family mourn, and just be empathetic. How about you be a human towards another human being? Is it really that hard? And so people are probably going to ask, well, is the doll dangerous or not? Here's the thing. Those of us in the paranormal community, we know what we're doing. We know how to handle haunted objects. We know the precautions to take before, during, after. We know how to protect the people around us. So, that doesn't make Annabelle not dangerous. It doesn't mean that just because Annabelle is not the cause of his passing, it doesn't mean that Annabelle's not dangerous. It doesn't mean that Annabelle's not haunted. It just means that sometimes, just because we work in this field, the same thing that just because a police officer dies in a fire doesn't mean that, well, he died in a fire because he was a cop. Or just because a firefighter dies in a hurricane, well, he died in a hurricane because he was a firefighter. Or just because someone who works in road construction dies from diabetes, well, he had diabetes because he was in road construction. I mean, come on, do you see how stupid that sounds? Sometimes tragedies just happen. Show some freaking empathy.